today we're going to discuss a very, very important judgment. Every judge in his lifetime passes judgments that impact the lives of people. But some judgments are extraordinary. They impact lives of almost all Indians. And such is a judgment given by Justice P.S. Narasimha and Justice Atul Sandurkar. And this is very important for two reasons. They have sort of held the right to having a footpath a constitutional right, and also the thing is they are ensuring that our urban living spaces will improve because of this one judgment of the court. And if I mean, this morning as I was driving from my home to my office, one thing I noticed is that footpaths were encroached by billboards, by lights, which are street lights, trees right in the middle of the footpaths, not on the side. So if one decides to walk on a footpath, one may end up banging into any one of these.
Yeah.
And there were other random encroachments. And the Prime Minister also recently said that he expects people to walk more, stay healthy, and not sort of take their cars out at the drop of a hat. That was Prime Minister Narendra Modi's address, I think two or 3 weeks ago. The Supreme Court's judgment is very timely. And I think in the next 1 year, we will see implementation because social activists and citizens pan India will go to their municipal corporations and demand that the footpaths be cleared of encroachments. And I have people with me today on the panel, all of whom have in a passion for sports and walking. I have a golfer with me, Justice Hemant Gupta. He was judge of the Supreme Court, is a leading arbitrator, also somebody who spends a lot of time walking the golf course. He is someone who likes the act of walking. A lot of people don't. He does. I have with me Sudhir Mishra. He, for a large part of his life, he did a lot of environment cases. Even now, so he appeared for the Supreme Court in the Delhi High Court. The new building was coming up. And he's somebody who cycles and walks regularly. Venkatesh is a sportsman. He also cycles, walks, and exercises. So all these three people are, they walk the talk. They do these things, and they would appreciate if such infrastructure comes up. Thank you for your time on this really important judgment by the two honorable judges, that's Justice P.S. Narasimha and Justice Atul Sandurkar. At the outset, I want to request Sudhir Mishra, Managing Partner of Trust Legal, to open. Sudhir, you have been, in fact, you brought to my notice, of course, I had read it, but you called and, you discussed at length this issue that, Tarun, this is something that sort of deserves the attention rather than a lot of commercial issues we take up. And you're right. Judges sort of get this opportunity to do some good on a large scale. And this judgment really does that. Over to you for the opening comment.
Thank you, Tarun, and good evening, Justice Gupta, and dear Venkatesh, good evening to you. This is a very, very pleasant topic to discuss, actually, something very dear to me. 19 June this year was a remarkable day when Justice Narasimha's bench passed this order. We will go into the details of it, that Article 19 has been discussed, Article 21 has been discussed, but what he said, something very fundamental, that the Motor Vehicle Act came later. You have been walking for ages. You have been walking all through, before generations. Historically, you have been walking. That is what he precisely first said, that Motor Vehicle Act will not be a guiding factor, which will tell you about the rights of a person who walks. If you just ask ChatGPT, what is the meaning of 11 number ki bus? It says walking on your foot. So that's the first mobility, actually. That's the first mobility started when the human race must have evolved, and that's what the judgment indicates. Judgment is very, very important in a view, because it says that walk is not only limited. Here is a child who died while going to the school neighborhood, but it also talks about that we have a tradition of walks where Dandi March and Vinoba Bhave's Bhudan Andolan, the court has mentioned. They have talked about the Sawan Mela's walk, which happens across North India, especially in Jharkhand and Bihar. From Sultanganj, people go to Devghar to put water, and how much you are careful that they walk freely. do we give the same protection to an ordinary individual when he wants to go and walk from his house to a school, to Mother Dairy to his house, or on a busy market where hawkers, poles, other people have encroached that entire area. And if nothing happens, then there is a Tharization which happens, that the footpaths will be taken over by the vehicles, or even in the traffic emergency, they will take the vehicle on the footpath. So the person who is walking on the footpath is at a receiving end.
Point very well taken. I go to Venkatesh. What do you think of this judgment by Justice Narsimha and Justice Sandurkar on a pan-India scale? What impact will it have?
Thank you, Tarun. Good evening, my dear panelists, Mr. Justice Gupta and my friend Mr. Mishra. See, the judgment is quite interesting. Ordinarily you would find these, although the matter arose from a civil appellate jurisdiction, at least from what is discernible from the text of the judgment, but it has been converted into a PIL, and that also not like usually you would find that a lot of these PILs are registered under Article 21, because 21 is the all umbrella legislation which encompasses all rights. This has been identified specifically to Article 19(1)(d). So that is, I think, in itself is the distinguishing or the cream of the judgment, because here the court has gone on to decide this right to walk as a right. It is then ascribed a duty on the state to provide that right, ensure that the right is protected, and has now taken steps by registering this into a PIL on a long-term basis to ensure that it is complied by all the stakeholders, and there's a remedy when these rights are being violated. Often what we have in our country is that you have a point of law where there is a decision, a right is declared, and the matter is left at that, which is effectively a right without a duty is a sentiment. It's nothing more than that. And a duty without remedy is nothing but a courtesy. So the court is trying to cover all these aspects to ensure there is actually an enforceable right by the end of all of this. So according to me, this is really the heart of the judgment as I understood from reading of it. And therefore, now what next, really speaking, because this is only a foundation. So what has happened in this matter is that this very fundamental right to walk has been declared as a right, constitutional fundamental right under Article 19(1)(d) by virtue of this judgment. Now, how that right would translate into actual action for people in different parts of the country. I mean, we all of us live in Delhi. We can understand the problems in Delhi and beyond. Is going to be seen in times and months to come when this right is actually implemented by high courts in either in a direct action be brought by citizenry, or if by the Supreme Court, perhaps through a regular monitoring of these PILs. Now I'll give you a personal anecdote. You all referred to all of us having some role to play in terms of our own walking. Think about it. We often in the months of winter back in the day, but at least 20-30 years ago, those who grew up in the city would want to walk shorter distances, because that would be, the weather is quite palatable in Delhi, and you're able to achieve a lot more just being out and about. All that had stopped in the last 15-20 years because of this so-called hijacking of footpaths, or not I mean, I think the problem in this case was there was no footpath, there was no walkway. Our city has a different problem. Our city, the problem is the footpaths are actually hijacked. So even though you have them, so if you live in Luton Bungalow zone, you will have these lovely footpaths over there, but anything beyond that, you're at the mercy of people who are actually occupants of this footpath. So I think, while once you have declared this to be a fundamental right, I think the urban development corporations have a huge role to play to ensure that the right is actually enforceable and protected. And this is where the next step of perhaps actions are required to ensure that these encroachers on the footpath, which are literally, or for example, one is encroachment, the other is the non-implementation of traffic bylaws. Now, in a peak traffic jam, ordinarily you will find everybody jumping onto the footpath to, from a biker to a cyclist to everyone. This may not be the correct way of, ensuring the safety of citizenry who are walking on this footpath. So I think the next steps are going to be, I mean, sky is the limit, but I think once you recognize this as a right, which has a duty and a remedy, all of it ascribed within the same judgment, I'm sure steps would be taken to protect this right and to implement it going forward.
Point very well taken. Justice Narsimha and Justice Sandurkar have sort of given go ahead to a pan-India movement where every citizen can ask from their municipal corporation, where is my footpath? I'll go to Justice Hemant Gupta for his analysis and for his comments.
Yes, Tarun, is a fundamental right which the court has declared. But I will go a step further. It's not a fundamental right, it's a basic right, human right. We all know walking. We know we must have a clear path to walk on the footpaths or in parks or whatever. But there is a corresponding duty on the citizens also. How many of us actually stop at the zebra crossing or do the uh, crossing only in the zebra lines? No. I drive in the morning, I go to my gym. There are people running through the main highway, in a hurry to get to their destination. They don't wait for the zebra crossing, they don't wait for the pathways. Uh, we are dealing with all situations. We examine it from our point of view, but there is other point of view of large section of people who don't follow any traffic rules. Actually, I think this is a civic sense, and civic sense can't be taught like this. We have to teach our children when they are in the primary class that what should be the civic sense, how the garbage should be thrown at the proper place, how the road should be crossed, how the traffic should be allowed to pass through. But unless it is taught to the children, once they become adults, they will follow it. But otherwise, generally, we lack in civic sense. I tell you, I was in Switzerland. There was Indian family who was walking on the road, and in those areas, walking on the road is considered to be terrible because once you are walking on the road, the traffic stops. And I requested them, please be on the footpath. Don't be on the walk on the road. That is the basic things we lack. And the person traveling abroad was not unaware of all those things. But somehow or the other, we don't have the awareness of this. I give you one example. Recently in Tokyo, there is called Scramble Crossing. There is a 5 crossings, pedestrian crossings from one side to another, all at the one same time. Thousands of people cross in the time when there is a green light for the pedestrian cross. No mess up, no elbow out or something. People walk fairly, reasonably, without disturbing anyone. There was recently Japan won a match, and there was people running from all directions came to the crossing. But the moment the light turned red, everybody dispersed. Thousands of people in seconds they dispersed. That is the discipline which we need to inculcate in our people. Unless we do it, yes, there has to be footpath. It should be clear walkway, but who will use it? We are not used to use walkways, pathways, generally speaking. No, some people are, and I will not take everybody in that, but some people are conscious of walking on the pathways, but most of the people, they cross wherever they want to.
In fact,
yes.
I had two learnings from sort of what in my interviews over the years, they say build infrastructure and people will correct themselves. One is Delhi Metro, where E. Sridharan, who was then heading Delhi Metro, he says, you will find nobody spitting in my metro. You will find everybody in line. And the moment they get out of the metro service and go to a bus, they will fight for space. So if you give people right infrastructure, they modify their behavior. Of course, there is a fine and all that is also there, but by and large, people suddenly become disciplined in the Delhi metro and they are very unruly outside it. Second is the gated communities that have come around Delhi, not in Delhi. Around Delhi is Gurgaon, around Delhi is Noida. Uh, it has a late walking culture. You go out at 1 a.m. in the night and you find a lot of not even young but middle-aged people walking who come from work late at night, because they in the gated community they know they'll not be mugged, they'll not trip, because the gated community infrastructure is much better. The footpaths are there, and it is like a small mini city within Noida, or mini city within Gurgaon. And a lot of our retired government officers, judges do live in these communities. We get to go to these places and we see how better made they are. Secondly, if you see, I drove from Sundarnagar, which is a very good area of Delhi, one of the posh areas of Delhi, to Defence Colony. And within even these two good colonies, there was not a usable footpath. We could see residents of Sundarnagar and the residents of Defence Colony walking on the road, risking being knocked down. There may be less vehicles, but it is still risky because the footpaths, even in these colonies, are completely encroached by garbage bins. So it's not a problem anymore of the rich or the poor area. All areas are badly built. Go to Sudhir Mishra at this point. So do you think that it is an India problem? It's not an area specific problem anymore, that the posh areas have footpaths and the not so good areas don't. No area has footpath.
Tarun, I think the judgment has actually looked into a all India phenomena. That's why they are talking from panchayat to municipal corporations,
Yes.
which is a very, very important step here. Because see, you are not only talking about where we already have footpaths, we are also talking about not road safety here. We are talking about availability of footpath and my right to free movement under Article 19. Now, what they have said categorically, that's why I really agree with Venkatesh. He said rightly that they are not leaving it just with the judgment here. They have said make a regulator for all India. They want a regulator. That's what they have asked in the judgment. Now, why they are saying a regulator? They are sending a copy to Law Commission. And thirdly, they are saying like right to food, which became a fundamental right, and then it became an act. Right to education, which became a fundamental right under Article 21, it became an act. They want a right to walk Act 2026. And this is, I think, the transformative part of the judgment. That when you will have a judgment like, I'll tell you how I spent my Sunday yesterday. Like you go, no, I go to Sishganj Gurdwara, like Justice Gupta said about his routine. I took my car, went to Connaught Place, parked it, took a metro, got down at Chowdi Bazaar. From Chowdi Bazaar, I walked right up to a place, Sham Sweets, everybody knows there. You can't walk. You just can't walk. So with my kind of body, it was difficult to really go on that road. So from there up to Jama Masjid, then I walked down to the book market on near Golcha Picture Hall. I walked the whole stretch yesterday. I do it once in 2-3 months. I love walking, like in my college days. There is no place you can walk. So let's leave aside the Lutyens zone. I'm talking about Delhi only. You cannot walk safely because new modes of transport has come. All these three-wheelers which have come in different shapes and sizes, two-wheelers of different sizes. They disregard, they treat people as obstacle. And that's what the judgment has hinted, that you treat people walking on two legs as obstacle. Discipline part, of course, is very right, which Justice Gupta said, but here you're talking about two major things. Shift in the mindset of the municipal planners, shift in the mindset of all the rules and regulation making authorities, that do you want people to walk, give them more respect than the motorist. And I think that's a defining moment.
In fact, when Justice Dalbir Bhandari was offered the International Court of Justice, he got an email from the court asking what cycle would he want. And he almost laughed. I'm a judge of the Supreme Court. You expect me to use a cycle? And then he was told that judges go to the ICJ on cycle, many of them. They cycle to the court. And for an Indian Supreme Court judge, this was an inconceivable thought, that now I am being elevated to ICJ and I've been asked what cycle, not what car I want. So when I heard this anecdote, I was like, in countries abroad, judges cycle to their courts. And here, I mean, there is an avid cyclist who is a senior advocate. I met him at the gym. And he told me he fears to cycle in Delhi because he may be knocked down. He cycles in his gym. So
many prominent people have been knocked down. And Justice Gupta was so right. Chandigarh is one of the places where you can walk on the footpath. Chennai is the second. And if you want Venkatesh to know which is the state where maximum encroachment has happened, that's actually West Bengal. So they have to really clear the footpaths with the fastest.
I go to Venkatesh. Uh, See, with what our Supreme Court has done, do you think that you expect a pan-India movement now to clear all these footpaths? Or is easier said than done? Or do
I
you
think
think getting implemented is a Herculean task?
so. I think again, as rightly pointed out by both my senior panelists, that this is only a beginning. So I think we don't know how this will play itself out. See, right now, Justice Narasimha has done the difficult part of finding a right,
Yes.
academically and constitutional right. Now the difficult part on the citizenry side commences now to actually implement this right. Now, how do I see this planning itself out? I see this to be a continuing mandamus in the sense that this writ petition, this PIL has been renumbered or renamed as a right to fundamental right to walk. It will be listed separately. The judgment copy and the Supreme Court's view on this being a fundamental right is being shared with all the departments of state government, central government, as well as the Law Commission. Now the next manthan that is likely to happen after this is that would the government take it upon itself to frame a law, a parliamentary enactment to cover this issue and give a broad framework, or unlike the other cases like Vishaka, or for the longest time we had T.N. Godavarman, which was regulating environment in India, would the Honorable Supreme Court do a continuing mandamus and call for reports from different state, different cities, and then perhaps prepare a a framework in which all this can be done? My sense is that the Honorable Supreme Court, and knowing and seeing Justice Narasimha on the bench on all these years, I sense that an opportunity would definitely be given to the executive to first frame a law, would cover this, and if something gets left out, then perhaps these recommendations can be made through the Honorable Supreme Court. But which is what my experience was in the Great Indian Bustard judgment also before him, that he, of course, the domain which is covered by the executive must be exercised by the executive. The court cannot obviously second guess that. So I think that would be the way forward in this case, so to speak. But the most critical aspect is that this issue has been brought into deliberation amongst all the key and relevant stakeholders. So naturally something will happen. Now, to what extent, coming back to answering your question, that would it be a quick fix or a long drawn? It has to be a long drawn process, because this is not even in the domain of legislation or executive action at this stage. What we have under the Motor Vehicles Act is a very basic law governing motor vehicles per se, and MSCT, of course, is there because of motor vehicle accidents, what can be done there. But this is all outside that. Therefore, it will be slow, and I think the progress will obviously not be net breaking at a net break speed today, but it has to be in the right direction and it has to follow the steps as we have discussed so far.
Point well taken. And I'll go to Justice Hemant Gupta. Sir, since you come from Chandigarh, do you feel while living in Delhi you are forced to always take the car where you can walk for small distances, or you never felt that, or do you consciously feel?
I feel that way. There's a park near to my house. My wife is always insisting that I should take car to the park. Why walk on the road? Because there is no footpath. It's a small area. I stay in Gulmohar Park. The people have parked their cars on the road. There is hardly any walking area.
So on road also there is no walking area.
Yeah, there is no. So, but Chandigarh is very different. Chandigarh is different in this sense. The people generally follow zebra crossing, and they stop at the red light.
Are the footpaths in order?
Yeah, footpaths are in order.
So you can walk actually on the
You can walk. There is a cyclist track. You can cycle also. Sometimes there are some rickshawala do come to on the cycling track, but generally it is safe to do cycling. So that way, Chandigarh is the advantage, because it's a planned city. The politicians are not dealing with the Chandigarh, so bureaucracy has its own fads about implementation. They are doing a good job, I would say so. But as first pointed out, West Bengal is the encroachments. The Bombay is the biggest area. You don't find any, right on the footpath. There are the jhugis, the shanties are there. So how do you, unless there is a massive redevelopment, like Dharvi is one area which is being redwelled, but what do we do about the small areas. So, but it's a first step has to be taken. First step has been taken by the court. Now the subsequent steps are to be taken by the citizens, the public authorities, the authorities, and gradually we will see the difference. We can't say overnight there will be mass removal of encroachments. It's a human problem also. Where do all those persons who are living in those hutments, they are relocated? Relocation is also a difficult part. Those these workers who are staying there, they work in the neighborhood houses. They work in my house, in your house, and everywhere. If they are located at 20 kilometers distance, then we will not have any help. It's a human problem, practical problem. So we need to find a solution for these problems.
In fact, I'm so happy that Justice Narasimha and Justice Sandhurkar have brought this issue in the mainstream India.
That's
in
right.
fact, we were discussing everything else but this. And these two judges of the Supreme Court have ensured that this is back right on top of the table. Everyone would be discussing this pan India. And I think 6-7 months from now, we must revisit this judgment. That whether has anything changed in the national capital, I think the best way to check anything is that within the 20-kilometer circumference of the Supreme Court has anything changed. Because the Supreme Court should be able to get its orders implemented. That's very important. That if it's given an order, we should see some change. And that is why it will be important to take this up again. At least those hoardings on middle of the footpaths, light poles and trees, how these are changed, how the alignments are changed. I think this is something that we must sort of look at. But I would like to thank Justice Hemant Gupta, arbitrator and former judge of the Supreme Court of India, Sudhir Mishra, managing partner of Trust Legal, Advocate Sri Venkatesh, advocate at Aptel Supreme Court and Delhi High Court. Appreciate your time on this important issue and this important judgment by Justice Narasimha and Justice Sandhurkar. Hope this goes a long way in making our cities walkable. Thank you so much.
Tarun, just one small thing I wanted to add to what Mr. Justice Gupta was saying, because I was a former resident of Gulmohar Park. The journey of Right to Information Act started in 1975 in the Raj Narayan judgment. So it is usually a Supreme Court judgment which lays the foundation, which ultimately leads to a law, which RTI Act came in 2005. Exactly. It took almost 30 years. Let's hope this will not be 30 years, it will be much faster in terms of implementation.
Yeah, point. You are right. The first step has been taken. Now the citizens and the social activists will take it further. They should take it further. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for that input.